Hello, Doomers. I'm back, speaking to you from the hellscape where I am currently trapped in a never ending downward spiral called life. Yeah, probably shouldn't have the chance today because I'm not in a great mood and I'm arguably flat. Even my voice is kind of hoarse and breaking a little bit. So maybe I've contracted COVID or some other malign wee virus that's eating me up from the inside. Uh, so yeah, for multiple reasons, probably not the best time to have the chance. But equally, alas, it is the time to have the chance. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of us will be having rather difficult conversations with kith and kin during the weeks, months, and perhaps years ahead of us. So I don't even really know what I'm gonna talk about. Don't worry, this isn't a suicide video blog. Uh, that will probably come in due course. This is more me just talking. Fundamentally because of nothing else to do, no one else to talk to. I'm not really in the mood for checking the commodity markets today. I'll probably do it later. Uh, probably do it later when my mojo has returned. Uh, then I just want to talk to you today about that little thing called doomerism. Uh, that ism that joins us all together and it's brought us all together to witness the end times from the perspective of yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about doomerism and being a doomer, and more specifically, how I came to be a doomer. This shell of a human being that you now see before you. Mm. I remember I tweeted in the great long ago that I've been a doomer for 22 years. I think that was in 2022. So that'd be how I became a doomer in the year 2000. That was hyperbolic. I certainly wasn't a doomer in the year 2000. So I kind of said that for dramatic effect. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I know there are doomers who allege that there were doomers since a very, very early age. And to some extent, that's probably true. They probably understood that the environment and the climate was fucked. Uh, I'll give them that. They certainly didn't know about the reality of the energy system, and didn't know that the economy was a big debt-based Ponzi scheme based on claims of future energy that cannot be repaid. So probably had a general sense that shit was fucked. But to say they were a doomer kind of dilutes the meaning of being a doomer, part of which means being painfully aware of every aspect of our shared biophysical reality. But I wasn't a doomer, a child. I was born in 1980. So I was born into the 80s in Ireland, which was kind of a grim place in the 80s, but also in retrospect, it held a certain charm. And even my city in the 80s was a lot different to my city now. So when I was a kid, there were still places of considerable natural beauty in the hellscape. All gone now. All of them have been completely destroyed in our quest to make the city unlivable. Yeah, I just got to make myself a coffee, doomers. That might wake me up a little bit because I don't want to bore the doomers. So just one moment. Back again, doomers, back again. So as I was saying, I certainly wasn't a doomer when I was a young bambino. For the first 20 years of my existence, I was, relatively speaking, a normie. Had a lot of the traits and habits of being a normie. Admittedly, I was a very morbid child with arguably unhealthy fascinations. For example, between the ages of kind of 6 and 16, I had kind of fascination with the occult and World War II. I remember being too interested in World War II. I was just a morbid child, but still bright and socially capable. I had a network of friends with whom I had all of the fun, etc. I spent lots of time chasing girls, talking about music, and all of that good, bad stuff that's included in being a normie. So that was kind of the first 20 years. Let's say 19, 20 years. And then when I was 20, I certainly did not become a doomer, but there was just a few things that happened that started the process, if you will, kind of triggered an interest in me that would later manifest as black hat doomerism. I should give some context. I was studying philosophy at the time. More particularly, the degree was philosophy and theology. So we did lots of philosophy, but we also wasted plenty of our time reviewing theology, moral theology, and Christology, scripture, church history, etc. Uh, Interesting in a small way. My interest was obviously more in philosophy, and I enjoyed Plato and all of the Greeks. I even had a soft spot for the sophists. It's a shame we don't have more of the sophists' writings and argumentative strategies. It's a shame that they weren't recorded for posterity. But so Greek philosophy was cool. And I think it was second year, in the political philosophy module. And as I said, when I was a kid, I was interested in war, World War II, and just all of that kind of stuff. So I quite liked the political philosophy module. And then there was just one ordinary day, one unexceptional day, like any other day. The lecturer came in and he started talking about Karl Marx. Fucking Karl Marx. And that was the fucking start of it. Before I was a black hat doomer, I was a black hat Marxist. And I was also an orthodox Marxist. So I bought into all of this shit. Class struggle, sort of capitalist system miserates, exploits, and alienates everyone to the point where we'll eventually team together and we will expropriate the expropriators. That basic kind of approach to Marxism, childish, infantile, and un-Marxist, because I was kind of applying standard Marxism from fucking centuries ago to the exigencies of the present situation and the present capitalist system, and that's contrary to Marxism. So I even understood or misunderstood the basics, but such is life. But I was interested in the Marxist idea, dialectics, and antagonism in the motor force of history, particularly antagonism between material forces. As I said, I drank the Kool-Aid with regards to class struggle, and people's propensity and or willingness to forsake capitalism and pursue the greater good. And that's fucking nonsense. We know that's nonsense. Motherfucker on the street wouldn't give you the time. Never mind collaborate in a revolution which will remove these presumed advantages and benefits of capitalism. But I was hooked by the idea that capitalism was, kind of destined to collapse under the weight of its own internal contradictions. Just that idea that there was a process internal to capitalism that would eventually result in the collapse of the same. Or wasn't an economics expert, didn't think about a lot of aspects of it, but just one or two things that just left a strong impression on this, on Ian's younger brain. So that was the start of it. And I don't know if you remember, back in the 90s, there was this kind of fairy tale narrative called when it wasn't, a fairy tale narrative that we had reached the end of history. Uh, Francis Fukuyama, that kind of thing. We found liberal democratic capitalism, so that's the end of history. We've reached our destination, and from now on, we'll just universalize liberal democratic capitalism, and everything will be good. We'll fix a few boring ecological problems, but fundamentally, life will just be boring, just consuming, existing, etc. So that was in the background, and it was obviously bollocks. History don't fucking end. Yeah, it's bollocks, Francis. You should be ashamed. Francis Fukuyama should be fucking ashamed of himself, actually espousing that nonsense. And his fucking Kojivian Hegelianism. Yeah, fuck. Yeah. Fuck off, Francis. Go. So I knew that was bollocks. And then one day, I was watching the news, as I was wanting to do back in the day. Mainstream news. I wasn't online at this stage. There was no internet, so you'd kind of watch the 24-hour rolling news broadcasts and try to glean the truth about what was happening in the world at a given time or on a given day. And so I was watching it, and they cut to America. There was a big old building, smoke billowing out of it. It looked like the Towering Inferno, that movie from the 70s about an inferno in a skyscraper. So I looked at this, and obviously, it was interesting, all the smoke billowing out of the building. Obviously, the World Trade Center is the building I'm talking about. And I remember they were interviewing an aviation expert who was trying to explain how this accident could have happened. The sun and things being blinded him, and he didn't see them, or she didn't see the fucking World Trade Center. This kind of thing was being said at the time. And you could see plane number 2 just drift into view, nice and casually, like smashing to the other tower. Obviously, in the newsroom, they ejected the fucking aviation expert. He was given his marching orders immediately. They didn't ask him, what happened with the number 2? It was the sun glaring, in his eye or her eye, and they didn't see the fucking tower. So they got rid of him. He was gone. And yeah, Jesus Christ, that event changed everything. It restarted history. We had, that end of history narrative just to one side. Samuel Huntington had his Clash of Civilizations idea where, sort of, we were just getting this resurgence of multipolarity, really, in political multipolarity. The illusion of Western hegemony was being challenged in a tangible way that would, in due course, become, obvious and irrefutable. So when the 9/11 happened, that was massively significant. It wasn't just the spectacular nature of it. It was more the meaning that it would have and the bearing it would have on global politics going forward, which anyone with a fucking brain cell would have realized fairly immediately. So after that, and this is I had Marx, capitalism collapse under the weight of its internal contradictions. I had 9/11, and kind of the return to political multipolarity, perhaps expressed in terms of civilizational conflict, antagonism. And then, we know what happened. We know what happened with the Iraq War. And this, arguably, in retrospect, was the most significant moment. Because for the first time in this black hat doomer's life, I started thinking about fucking oil. Yeah. I went to all the protests, no blood for oil, etc. I read the neocon document, what was it, the plan or whatever for the new American century, which was essentially a document about how to secure access to oil through shooting motherfuckers. Um, so I started thinking about oil. Now I started thinking about it in a very basic way. Oil is very important because we need it to run capitalism and run the war machine. It was that kind of thing. Oh, oil is really important. We really need it. I wasn't looking at a fucking toothbrush going, oh, this is oil. I wasn't fucking thinking, oh, this is oil. Oh, look, this is oil. I wasn't breaking everything down into energy inputs and outputs. I could still kind of pursue a normal life, you know, do shit, hook up with women and fucking maintain social relationships with normies, go to parties, that kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, where are we? We're in the noughties. So yeah, after 9/11, I decided to do a master's degree in international relations. Because at this time, I did think that politics was fundamental, arguably primary. It was a really important subject, and I had a lot of hope in the transformative potential of concerted political action. And, I'd go to Socialist Party meetings, anarchist meetings. I was always the black sheep. It was always a little bit more Robespierrean than the other boys and girls. Yeah, because I kind of know, lads, this isn't happening. There's exactly zero fucking chance of a socialist revolution in a Western fucking democracy. And even if there was, it doesn't matter a fuck in a globalized economic system because all you'll experience is capital flight and marginalization. There's no way to achieve global emancipation along Marxist lines. But I still thought, let's punish the fuckers. So that was my kind of big thing. Okay, we're fucked. There's no escape of capitalism. Let's have a pop at the capitalists. Okay, we're all guilty to an extent, but some of us are more guilty. Let's get Robespierrean. Let's go to work. Obviously, everyone there thought I was some police plant trying to stoke the flames of criminal activity. Yes, fuck it. I stand by it. We should have done it. Also, Ted was right. Ted was right. So yeah, even back then I was this kind of a Robespierrean guy. Yeah, I just believed in justice. Yeah, it's like in the final days of the Third Reich. When Berlin was falling to the Soviet behemoth and it was closing in, pounding it into dust. Those Nazi lads continued hanging people from fucking the lampposts. still believed that these orders should be enforced and that traitors should be punished. I'm not a Nazi, but I had a similar attitude towards communism and communist praxis. Didn't go down well anyway. It didn't go down well. So what happened then? Okay, we're gonna skip fucking years. Okay, I was just gone to parties, reading books, studying philosophy, etc. Particularly political philosophy, history, international relations, blah blah blah. A little bit of political economy, but not enough. So in 2007, I did know that there was a property bubble in Ireland. As saying to my partner at the time, my long-term partner, is with her for 11 years. Poor girl. But I remember saying to her, there's fucking something nasty coming. There's going to be a property crash in Ireland, and it'll probably affect public finances. So I think it's time for me to run back to university and shit out a PhD while the Irish economy collapses. And I applied and I got the position, and then Jesus Christ! So I was expecting a localised property crash in the Republic of Ireland. Certainly wasn't expecting the near collapse of the global financial system for reasons that I couldn't even understand. I had no familiarity with these fucking cancerous mortgage products that were being hawked by these fucking banks. Obviously, nobody fucking did. Or wait, I know Peter Schiff, and yeah, no, there were a few people, but it wasn't me. I didn't anticipate the 2008 financial collapse. And when it happened, I don't think I've ever been as angry. Never, because I'm smart. I was smart. I was interested. I was watching the fucking news. I was following stuff that they told me in the news. And I was completely sideswiped by these motherfuckers. Like everyone. Those fucking bankers. And that was another pivotal point where I thought, shit, man. Everyone's telling you you're fucking bright, you're getting all the good grades and fucking whatever, and you don't know your arse from your elbow about something as fundamental as the economy. Economics. You're even supposed to be a fucking Marxist, but you're applying these redundant categories and strategies to the current economy, which is completely un-Marxist. But you're also misunderstanding and missing fundamental, crucial aspects of the contemporary global capitalist system. You're a muppet, Ian. You're a fucking idiot. And that made me annoyed. So anyway, that's when I said, particularly when the response, the response to the great financial crash. Of course, we had austerity. We also had QE. QE. Oh, QE. What the fuck is that? It's quantitative easing. We're doing quantitative easing. And we continued to do it. For the next few years, I felt burned. So I was a guy really interested in Marxism. Somebody who's increasingly interested in oil, the energy system, and who was completely sideswiped by the GFC. And incrementally, little by little, I'd start checking stuff. You know, just start checking stuff. It starts with the economy. The economics is daunting because the language is obscurantist by design. So I mentioned quantitative easing. This is a helpful fucking name for money printing. No, I did. Oh, it's not money. It's injecting liquidity into the fucking system. Just an example of the obscurantist language as employed by these fuckers just so we don't know what the fuck they're on about. Because anyone with a fucking brain cell would realize that if you pump shitloads of liquidity into the fucking system for long enough, you're gonna get crazy inflation. But we'll get back to that. So yeah, I did my PhD, and I did well in the PhD, and I did a little bit of teaching in university. I was working with trainee nurse, or not trainee, student nurses, midwives, and psychiatric nurses. It was my job to kind of explain, the code of conduct and get them thinking about the philosophical underpinnings of the code of conduct. And yeah, so after that, I came out of a long term relationship. And when the job in the university was fixed term contract, so that expired, and I couldn't get a fucking job in Ireland. Ireland nearly collapsed completely during the great financial crash. We were like Greece and Spain and Portugal. We had to be bailed out by our European overlords. So the situation was very bad, and obviously companies simply weren't hiring. So the academic route was closed to me because I had connections in academia, so I knew the state of affairs with academia back in, when was it, 2011, 2012. So that was kind of close to me. So I was going for other bullshit fucking jobs, and I just couldn't get any. And, it was very frustrating. But at that time, because I'd spent 10 years reading philosophy, history, politics. And I go to dinner parties, and so the attendees at the dinner party were talking about Marxism. They were talking about art and literature, and obviously I had read novels. I quite like poetry when I was an undergrad, particularly beat poetry. Anyway, yeah, we won't go back to that. Again, I don't even know why I'm fucking doing this. Whatever, humor a doomer. So where was I? Oh yeah, I was at dinner parties, and everybody was talking about fucking, I don't know, T.S. Eliot or some other sort of work of literature, or, Kafka or whatever. And I didn't know, didn't read this stuff because I was already siloed in political philosophy and kind of philosophy in general. So I was unemployed at that time. So I decided to just read them all because I think it was a 9-month period. Yeah, around a 9-month period, I couldn't find any work. So I just lived in the local library reading the classics. Yeah, all of them. Sophocles, Aeschylus, T.S. Eliot, his plays, and At the time, I found not Dylan Thomas, D.H. Lawrence. I didn't even know he wrote fucking poetry. I loved his poetry, mad, kind of Nietzschean, doomery poetry. Uh, but there was also just one or two kind of books that really, caught me. Uh, at the time, that was the time I read Cormac McCarthy's The Road for the first time. And if you haven't read it, read it. It's fucking a beautiful book, and it's arguably the sweetest statement, literary statement about the relationship between fathers and sons, at least in my opinion. And obviously, the language is breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking. So that was immediately, oh, Jesus Christ, it's a fucking great novel. Beautiful novel. Love that novel. And I'd go off and read, I don't know, Graham Greene, The End of the Affair, or some other stuff. But then after that, maybe I stumbled upon, I don't know, Lord Byron's Darkness, Lord Byron's masterpiece about the apocalypse. I go, look, geez, I love The Road. This Byron poem is excellent. Then I go and read some more sort of normie shit and stumble upon, I don't know, Mary Wollstonecraft or Mary Shelley, her book The Last Man. I go, oh jeez, another one about the end of the world. Nice, nice, nice. And then, yeah, particularly when I was reading J.G. Ballard's Crash, which is a fabulous book. And I do recommend it for doomers because the book is about the fetishization of car crashes, that kind of thing. Again, lovely, tasty language, lovely book. But yeah, written by J.G. Ballard. I like this guy. I wonder what other books he has. And then I discovered, early J.G. Ballard was a pioneer of cli-fi, sort of science fiction, but climate topics. And in particular, he had a few books like The Crystal World, The Drought, and yeah, The Drowned World. And I was consuming these books, The Drowned World in particular, I loved because it reminded me a lot of Joe Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which I also loved. There's just a few little philosophical motifs that I started thinking about, in relation to Ballard, but also in relation to McCarthy. If you read McCarthy, it's all about, perseverance and existentialist revolt and the parallels between the kind of general outlook espoused in The Road and existentialism are quite clear. So there was this growing body of literature about the end of the world with kind of obvious philosophical overtones. So I decided to start writing about that. A wee philosophy book about literature dealing with the end of the world, just kind of teasing out little philosophical particulars. So I thought, it would be a good fucking book and fun to write. Um, but uh, but as I was reading this body of literature, occasionally there'd be just a concept, maybe some ecological concept that I wasn't au fait with. I'd scurry off to check it. What's this? What's albedo effect? I'll just check that now, and then I'll come back and continue writing my book about the philosophical overtones of end of the world literature. So it's that kind of thing. Uh, but in all of the pieces like Byron's Darkness and McCarthy's The Road and Ballard's different takes on the end times, it was also my back of my mind. Jesus Christ, could you imagine? Could you fucking imagine if it was the end of the world? Uh, uh, at the time of that, just as well it isn't. Just as well it isn't. Now, technically, I don't think I had the internet before. Jesus Christ, maybe got it in 2012, maybe, or 2013. But I used it for very basic things, essentially downloading fucking music from Pirate Bay and watching. I didn't even use YouTube a lot. I don't know what the fuck I was doing online. Uh, I did have a Facebook account, but my time online was very limited. Uh, uh, so I started checking stuff and, you know, reading kind of IPCC communiques about the energy transition. And I was reading the basic stuff, you know, following a bit about the economy, you know, this kind of fucking thing. And, you know, oh yeah, around this stage, I kind of moved away from writing the book about the philosophical import of end of the world literature, because I just found myself spending more time just checking stuff. You know, like, oh, the green transition, let's see what that's about. And oh, renewables. Okay, so these renewables are going to be important. Let's check all about those and see how renewable all of that is. And, you know, incrementally, bit by bit, you just start going, are we completely and utterly fucked? And now at this stage, I was just a plucky amateur. You know, my confidence was low because I didn't see the GFC coming. Again, a lot of the language concepts still confusing, a lot I didn't know about ecology. My understanding of the energy system was quite basic at that time. I was just slowly, you know, putting things into place. The other thing was I really overrelied on official sources like IPCC, that kind of stuff. You know, so I was putting it into place, etc. Um, I believe around this time I stumbled upon Michael C. Rupert, the Collapse documentary. Didn't know he was a doomer, didn't know he was a collapsitarian, didn't know those words existed. They weren't in the IPCC report. The doomers think blah, blah, blah. Um, but yeah, just over time, you just kind of piece this shit together. Trying to disprove it. Fundamentally, that's how everyone becomes a fucking doomer. They're trying to, just verify that there is somebody in charge. They do have a plan, and we're not a fucking psycho-terracidal species in mad overshoot. So next few years was spent doom pilling on the down low. I still had to maintain kind of normie habits. But, you know, if people are talking about nonsense. Like, oh, talking about fucking mortgages or vacations. I just kind of drift off, smoke a cigarette, and just avoid the bad conversation. Uh, it was easily the loneliest time in my life. I felt fucking insane. I didn't know why I was thinking about oil so much. I didn't know why I was thinking about just all of this stuff so much. I didn't know why I was getting compulsive to check stuff and check it again. I just felt really, really alone, and I couldn't sleep for 2.5 or 3 years. In retrospect, that was kind of my depression stage where, yeah, I just kind of retreated into myself. And if somebody was asked me, oh yeah, what's wrong? I didn't start talking about oil. I didn't start talking about ecology. I just say something more general, like, God, life is meaningless. I just sort of give them something more general, etc. Just give them the idea that I was in a bad place. But I didn't want to go into specifics because I felt if I started talking about, I don't know, the resources you need to make a wind turbine, they'd look at you like you were a fucking lunatic. And maybe in 2024 it's more of an acceptable subject. Back in, I don't know, 2015, Ireland, if you talked about any of these subjects, the people wouldn't talk to you. They kind of walk away and maybe gossip about your mental acuity. Uh, so as a result, you just kind of have to keep it inside, even though it's the most interesting, fascinating thing you've ever stumbled upon. You think you might be right, and you think that if you are, it just renders everything, absolutely everything under the sun, hopelessly contingent and teetering on the cliff of eventual annihilation. Uh, and the version of me that you're familiar with, yeah, that developed after my depression stage. The insomnia just went away one night. Didn't change my diet, didn't do any increased exercise, nothing like that. It just went away one day and I could sleep again. Uh, Probably 2016. That's why, all the data was coming in hot. And I figured at that stage that renewables are replaceable, and it just wasn't looking good. And I also knew the economy was a pile of bullshit, based on fucking debt and never-ending QE. That was in 2016, and then I muddled on in my way for the next 2-3 years, just reading stuff, checking stuff. Still didn't know about the doomers. At this stage, I was on Twitter, but I was on Twitter doing at the time I was working for a training company. Part of my job is just to do bullshit online, on social media, that kind of thing. And when I was on Twitter, I checked Zero Hedge, just Zero Hedge, because I knew that they, I don't know, provide CPI data or whatever. So I checked Zero Hedge a lot. That was my first encounter with Twitter. But up until that time, I'd never heard of Doomers or Collapsitarians. I associated Doomer with an insult. I thought it was an insult, because at the same time, my mother would chastise me with the word if I did say, "Oh, it's fundamentally everything is meaningless," and I just can't enjoy uh, the accoutrement of modern life the way the other boys and girls can. It feels empty to me. It feels vapid, and it feels increasingly terracidal. When I'd say that kind of thing to her, she'd say, "Oh, you're wallowing in doom and gloom, and other people are getting on with it." That kind of fucking thing. My mother is obviously a great partisan of hope. She also told me often that I'd never steal her hope. You never steal my hope. I don't want to steal your hope, mother. But you should probably realize that physics is about to buy and buy. Physics doesn't give a fuck about your hope. Fucking hope. So yeah, I associated the doom word just as an insult. So I felt very, very lonely and weird. Just checking stuff that nobody else was checking. Completely just eviscerated my mojo. I just kind of increasingly lost interest in things like fucking professional aspirations, this kind of thing. Everything seemed very obviously illusory and blameworthy. I just came to reject it uh, entirely, essentially. Um, and then happened. COVID happened, and we know they stimulated the fuck out of the global economy. That baked in runaway inflation, which hasn't gone away. Obviously, we're in a stagflationary cycle. Go back and look at the 70s. Look what happened the last time the central banks mishandled an inflationary situation, and you'll get a good idea about what will happen as we go forward. Now, this is different because we do have the geopolitical climate that we currently have with these regional resource wars popping up everywhere, and any of them could trigger a global conflagration which might catalyze some change or resetting of the system. But yeah, all of that started in 2020, and at this stage, I wasn't shy about stuff anymore. I was sick of listening to people's crap. They're just fucking, it's just pointless fucking noise. I was sick of listening to it, so I wanted them to listen to me, and mainly I wanted them to understand with this COVID strategy that they were pursuing was going to result in massive, massive inflation. Because that's how it fucking works. It's not a mystery. It's obviously how it fucking works. Would you believe that they felt that I was completely wrong and didn't know what the fuck I was talking about? And they were also unhappy that I was actually talking about this subject. It displeased them. Stop talking about economics, Ian. It's boring. Talk about the football. And then, since the COVID pandemic, just everything has kind of changed. And everyone has kind of changed. It's changed all of our behaviors. It's just fucked everything up. And there's just no getting out of it now, doomers. This shit's accelerating. We're 100% fucking right. But at least I found the doomers, and I realised that I wasn't mentally ill, that there were other people who were interested in energy economy and ecology, and who also had a kind of elevated understanding of those fundamental aspects of our shared human existence. So that was a moment of liberation. It was nice to have people to talk to about this, but at the same time, I was losing friends and family in real life, because if you tell people you are a doomer, they will pathologize you and ostracize you. Uh, because being a doomer means that we eschew things they take for granted and things that they view to be central to their identity, like, consumption, status products. A recent report said that traveling was essential to people's identity, which I don't even know what that means. So, yeah, when you doom pill and you eschew those things, they no longer have anything in common with you. You're essentially a fucking alien from that point on. They don't know how to talk to you. They don't trust you. And they don't like the fact that you may or may not know things they don't know. So they have a choice. They can either listen and learn, or they can dismiss and ostracize. Normies will unfailingly choose to do the latter because they're a bunch of fucking cunts. So, guys, I don't know. I know a lot of you are kind of old school fucking doomers. Uh, uh, certainly doomers before I was a fucking doomer. As I said, I've only been Black Hat Doomer since 2016. Started doom pilling maybe in late 2012. The seeds were there beforehand, but it certainly wasn't a coherent world view, or particularly well informed. So it happened in 2016. So I know some of you are old school fucking doomers. You're old hats at this game. It's more to the newer doomers that I'm talking to now. The neophytes, and not used pejoratively. This isn't a fucking competition. That's the other thing too. It's not a fucking competition. I am doomier than you. I have a bleaker forecast than you. That's not how this fucking works. So I'm not saying the neophytes or the newcomers is some pejorative. It just is what it is. You came to see the grand predicament later than other people because you were a functioning member of in the paradigm, the matrix, the society, so you won't walk around thinking about fucking oil. So there's no blame there. But now that you have found your way down the rabbit hole to doomers, essentially, my recommendation is, just shut the fuck up about it. Don't mention it. Particularly, don't try to persuade people. I know a lot of detractors, doomerism, or just apocalyptimists. They have their recommended actions, and one of them is educate yourself and your family. Be fucking careful with that, doomers. That doesn't go down well, Believe me, they don't want to know. They don't give a fuck. Yeah, you can piece it together to them. As I go, equals your kid is fucked. And they look at you and they'll go, they're not going to take it on board. They will ostracize you. They'll withdraw from you. And that's why most doomers don't have a support mechanism, or a support network anymore. The fuckers have gone. The fuckers have gone. And it's not because we're bad people. I don't consider myself a bad person. I'm quiet. I'm reticent in my way. I have an even temper unless provoked. No different from these fuckers out there, except I have more of an understanding about the actual fundamentals of our biophysical reality. But don't rub it in. So just keep it to yourselves, doomers. Just talk to other doomers, share the data. Um, that's what I do on Twitter. I want to persuade fucking anyone. Or inform anyone. Or alert anyone. I don't give a fuck what normies think. I give a fuck what apocalyptimists think. All the shit I do online is just for doomers. It's just to share funny stuff or stuff that I find mildly interesting, because that's what we do. We like to share little aspects of the truth just so they can be inserted into the complete cornucopia of doom. That was kind of my unspectacular journey to doomerism. Don't know why felt the need to talk about that today. As well as just various things are kind of going bad. So it's good to distract the mind. It's also time to have conversations with fellow doomers. So yeah, this was a long one. Jesus Christ. 1 hour and 2 minutes. Ian could talk for Ireland. But I should probably go outside, see if I can find any butterflies or blue damsel flies. They're particularly elegant little creatures, and I do enjoy when I see them. Yesterday I met a fox. That was a beautiful little moment. The fox looked at me, and I looked back, gave him a wee wave, and he continued on his sojourn, hopefully somewhere safe. If I do one of these again, I'll try to make it funny, try to be a little bit more amusing. It just is what it is. That's the other thing to remember too, doomers. Collapse acceptance. It's a process. It's not a destination. You don't just reach it and then you're done. It was a difficult few years, come to grips with all that, but now, collapse acceptance. Yeah, absolutely not. We're going through the stages of fucking grief. That is not a linear process. You can backslide into anger, you can backslide into bargaining, you can backslide into depression. Oh, God. It's still, wouldn't have it any other way. Because if it's one thing that myself 12, 13 years reading philosophy gave me, it was just a respect for the truth. That the truth is good in itself. It's is the ultimate good. So whatever's on the side of the truth is good. Whatever stands against or opposed to the truth is bad. So I wouldn't have this shit any other way. Even if I get wiped out by and by in the shallows of collapse, I don't give a fuck. I'll still have the truth. Sorry for boring you. I'm a complete narcissist, solipsistic doomer. Yeah, it's sunny in the hellscape. I hope it's sunny where you are. Letters, doomers.